It was Elias's first night on the job at Blackwood Manor. He didn't believe in ghosts, he believed in paying rent. The pay was suspiciously high for a simple security gig, but Elias didn't ask questions. The manager gave him a heavy flashlight, a set of rusted keys, and one rule: don't interact with anything inside, just watch. The manor was massive. The air inside smelled like wet dust and old wood. His footsteps echoed too loudly on the marble floors. He started his patrol in the main hall. A massive staircase spiraled up into the darkness. At the bottom hung a painting of a woman in a stiff black dress. She looked miserable. Her eyes were painted in a way that made them look like they were staring right at Elias. He tried to shake off the creepy feeling. He shined his light around. Empty, silent, just a big, empty house. He checked his watch. 12:05 a.m. It was going to be a long night. At 1 a.m., Elias did his second round. He walked past the painting again. He stopped. Something was wrong. An hour ago, the woman in the painting had both of her hands resting neatly at her sides. Now, one of her hands was lifted, resting on the carved arm of the chair beneath her. Elias rubbed his eyes. He figured he was just tired. Maybe he remembered it wrong. He turned away to check the kitchen. When he walked back through the hall 10 minutes later, his heart dropped into his stomach. The woman in the painting had moved again. Her head was tilted slightly to the side. She wasn't just looking at the room anymore, she was looking at him. Okay, Elias whispered to himself, his voice shaking. Very funny. Someone's messing with me. He gripped his flashlight like a weapon. He called out, "Hello? Come out, I know you're there." Silence. 2:30 a.m. A sound drifted down from the second floor. It sounded like metal scratching against wood. Scrape. Scrape, scrape. Elias slowly walked up the stairs. His legs felt heavy. Every instinct told him to leave, but he needed this job. He followed the noise down a long hallway filled with closed doors. The scratching stopped, replaced by a soft, tinkling music, a lullaby. It was coming from the last door on the left, the nursery. He pushed the door open. The room was full of old dolls and dust. On a small table, a music box was playing. The little ballerina spun in circles. Elias walked over and slammed the lid shut. The music stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was heavy. Then he heard a whisper from the corner of the room. "Don't let her out." Elias spun around with his light. Nothing, just the dolls staring at him with glassy eyes. 3:45 a.m. Elias was back in the main hall, pacing. He wanted to leave. He reached for his radio to call the supervisor, but it was dead, just static. Suddenly, a loud thud came from the ceiling, directly above him, the attic. It sounded like someone had dropped a bowling ball. Elias knew he had to check. If someone was hiding up there, he could call the police. He climbed the stairs, past the nursery, and found the narrow door to the attic. It was slightly open. He pushed inside. The attic was huge and freezing cold. Old furniture was covered in white sheets, looking like ghosts standing in rows. In the middle of the room, a wooden rocking horse was moving. Creak, creak, creak. It was rocking violently, as if an invisible child was riding it. Elias froze. Then the rocking stopped instantly. The white sheet on the chair next to the horse slowly began to slide off. Elias didn't wait to see what was under the sheet. He turned and ran. He sprinted down the attic stairs, down the hallway, and nearly tumbled down the main staircase. He reached the front door and grabbed the handle. Locked. He fumbled for the keys. He jammed the key into the lock, but it wouldn't turn. "Leaving so soon?" The voice was right behind his ear, dry and raspy. Elias slowly turned around. He looked at the painting in the hall. The frame was empty. The canvas was blank. He felt a cold hand touch his shoulder. He screamed, but the sound didn't escape his throat. The darkness of the manor seemed to rush forward, swallowing him whole. The next morning, the day shift guard, a young guy named Mark, unlocked the front door. He walked in, whistling, drinking his coffee. "Morning, Elias," Mark yelled out. "Shift's over." No answer. Mark looked around. "Elias?" He walked over to the painting at the bottom of the stairs. He frowned. He had seen this painting 100 times, the stern woman in the black dress, but today the painting was different. The woman was still there. But standing behind her, with a hand resting on her shoulder, was a man in a servant's suit. He looked terrified. His eyes were painted in a way that made them look like they were staring frantically at whoever looked at the canvas. Mark shrugged, took a sip of his coffee, and muttered, "Weird. I never noticed the butler before."